Surface Pro 3 is Microsoft's biggest tablet to date. It brings a 12-inch display, making it more like a traditional laptop than ever before. It's also a lot of other things to Microsoft. It's the company's thinnest tablet to date, it's the company's lightest tablet, and you'll be the judge of this, possibly its best tablet to date. But first things first, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about how it fares in tablet mode. So as I said, this brings a 12-inch display, making it the company's biggest tablet that it's ever come out with in the 2 years that it's been making tablets. It's also the thinnest tablet at 0.36 inches thin here. And actually, those two things are related. Because the company went with this bigger display here, it could spread out the components inside instead of stacking them on top of each other, which allowed them to accomplish this thinner design. It's actually markedly thinner than the previous Surface. In fact, this is just a tad fatter than the Surface 2, which runs Windows RT, and that's kind of crazy when you remember that the Surface 2 is a tablet that competes with the iPad, and this is really an Ultrabook killer. This is really in line with a modern-day laptop, and to think it's as thin as a Surface 2 and only a little bit fatter than an iPad is kind of insane when you think about it. Another thing about the screen here, and I haven't even gotten to screen resolution, is the fact that the aspect ratio is a bit different. This is a 3:2 screen, and so because of that new ratio, this might sound like a nerdy detail, but it's actually quite important. It means that it's a little easier for me to reach things with my thumbs. And when I hold it in portrait mode even, it feels a little bit less top-heavy than it used to before. So it's even more comfortable to hold like this. And in fact, Microsoft modeled the design off of a legal pad. So it took the same dimensions of something you're already used to holding in your hand and you're used to working with, and it copied those dimensions for this device. And I think it actually in some ways makes this tablet easier to use than previous Surface Pros, even though the screen size is bigger. So that's counterintuitive, but it's true. So before I head off the screen, I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about this new display here. Not only is it bigger, but it's sharper. So what we have here is a 2160 by 1440 panel, making it the company's sharpest display to date. As always, the viewing quality is pretty great. The colors are nice, and it's pretty low glare. You do still have some reflection from natural light and also from overhead light, but all told, it's bright enough and low glare enough that you can use it in many places, whether it's outdoors or whether it's in a harshly lit office environment. So in previous generations, Microsoft went with a Wacom active digitizer for pen input, and now it's using Intrigue's technology. And while that may sound like an irrelevant detail to a lot of people, it actually changes the pen experience quite a bit. Starting with the pen itself, it's weighted more like a real pen. It feels less like a toy and less like an accessory, and more like just a real pen that you'd carry around. And ditto for the actual writing experience. There's just enough friction on the screen here that it feels like dragging a pen across paper, or, you know, as close as you can get, given that this is a tablet. So it feels more natural writing here. It's also pressure sensitive, as it has been in the past. It's really easy to appreciate the pressure sensitivity here. There's also hovering, as there is on many other tablets, but it's a pretty neat feature. A couple other things you should know, there are two buttons here. You can configure it so that it recognizes one button or two, and there's also a button up here that you can use for erasing in certain applications. And you can also press this to actually unlock the device and then bring up OneNote over the lock screen so that you can have access to your notes and have access to a digital notepad immediately, even without entering your login information. When you use OneNote, Microsoft's native note-taking application, it actually uploads your notes to the cloud as you're writing. The one thing you won't find anywhere on the tablet is a pen slot. So actually, if you buy the keyboard case, there is this loop that you can put the pen into. The only thing is that it attaches to the keyboard case with this kind of adhesive. What we haven't talked about is the kickstand. So this is also a little bit different. There is still a notch to open the kickstand. When you open it, it's not just a dual stage kickstand. You can also bend it all the way back like this, or most of the way back. That's a 150-degree angle. It just gives you another option for using the tablet. Maybe you're using a drawing application, maybe you're playing a board game. It just gives you a different position that you can work with. Let's talk about the keyboard, because this is really what makes this the Surface Pro 3. Even though it doesn't come in the box the way the pen does, if you don't have this, you're really not getting the most out of the device, because the whole idea is that it's powerful enough to take on a laptop. Well, if you wanted to replace a laptop, you've got to click in and use this keyboard here. What's different about this keyboard, actually there are a couple differences, but the biggest difference is, and watch what I'm doing, there's this magnetic strip along the top of the keyboard here. And when I fold it up like this, it attaches to the lower bezel, creating sort of a wedge profile, similar to what you'd find on a proper laptop, which makes this quite a bit more comfortable to use. I know that when I'm using it for long periods, I don't really enjoy using the keyboard when it's completely flat like that. It really is a lot more comfortable to just fold it up like that. And now that I have that option, I haven't gone back. I never ever use it flat. The problem is the keys themselves are still pretty flimsy. As I type really vigorously, you can sometimes even see the keyboard moving beneath my fingers. The other thing here is that the touchpad has been refined. It's bigger than it used to be. It now has a built-in touch button, which it didn't have before. It starts at $799 with a Core i3 processor and 64 gigs of storage, and you can go up and up. You can add i5 and i7. You can also add 128 gigs of storage, 256, 512, and the price goes up and up, but the keyboard never comes in the box, so that's always going to make it relatively more expensive. So for anyone considering this, I would say you might want to get it and you might be happy with it, but just consider that what you really want is a laptop that you're mostly going to use in desktop mode like this. Then you might be better off with a touchscreen laptop. If you really do enjoy using Windows apps, then you might actually enjoy this, because then you actually do get a very usable lightweight tablet and a potential laptop replacement.